Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our council meeting of October the 10th. I'd like to call this meeting to order at 7 o'clock. Begin with the adoption of the agenda. Is there any additions to the agenda?
Madam Mayor, administration has no additions.
Council?
I'll move the agenda.
Councillor Welke moves the agenda. All in favor? Carried. I'd like to call upon Staff Sergeant Deveron to present his report.
Hello, everyone.
Good evening.
Can't beat the weather. Okay, so I won't take too much of your time again. I know everyone's busy. I'll start with the prisoners. So year to date, we're at 2,021, and we had 158 in September. I think what I might do for next month, I might call another detachment that's similar to our size and just sort of compare what they're running. Because I'm sort of curious maybe what a High Prairie is doing compared to High Level, because we're about the same in size. So I think that would be interesting.
So that's an anomaly again, right? Because of the influx of people we have in town?
It seems like it's the highest I've ever experienced. And when I go back to the like last year, and I know last year was really not a fair comparison either because the town was helping a lot of evacuees then too. So I think we're probably going to be higher than what we were in the past. It's sure looking that way. So. Okay, everyone did get the stats that I sent out, I think.
Yep.
Okay, so September, so it was 374 calls, and it's broken down on this second page here. So 94 were property crime related, 43 were persons crimes, 28 traffic, 51 other criminal code, which would be disturb the peace, fail to comply. Federal statutes and provincial statutes, 121. And common police activities would be 37. So that compared from January till September this year, from January, September last year, we have a 3% increase compared to last year for persons crimes, a 5.8% increase in property crime, and a total increase of 7.1% for criminal code. So everything's climbing for us compared to last year. So. I do have some, well, I'm looking to get it confirmed, but the RPAC position, I heard today that the AHS nursing position has been filled, but I'm waiting to hear confirmation on that. But I got it from district, so that is good news. So we'll just need a member to partner up. But there has been talk that they might just bring the nurse up, and then whoever can go with her would use that nurse for the calls and stuff like that. So that's very promising. So I'm happy about it.
Isn't the officer trained in mental health? I thought the whole team would be an officer and a nurse.
He'll probably or she'll probably get some training more than what our frontline members would. So, and that could even happen on the job. I'm not too familiar with that program. I've never worked in a place that had it. And it won't even fall underneath our command structure here in High Level. So they won't report to me. They'll sort of report to the area.
Which would be
Us, Fort Vermilion.
Peace River?
No,
Oh.
I think Peace River has their own, so it's probably just gonna be Chate, us, and Fort Vermilion,
So this team would go to those three places?
potentially. The way I've heard it work in other places, they'll be based in, let's say, High Level or Peace River, and then when a call comes, they'll be contacted and see if they're gonna attend or how they'll attend. Simon, have you worked
Yes.
with that? Maybe
Yes.
you can speak more to that. Just not to interrupt But we're doing, this is Simon and this is Jade, our two newest members to high level.
Welcome to high level.
Both come with experience from busy detachments and they're gonna do good work here. But explain how the RPAC works.
So RPAC is like a regional, mental health team. Sure. We had one based out of Rocky Mountain House that came to Drayton Valley where I was policing before. What they would do is if they were on and we had a mental health call, we could actually call them, see where they were in the area, because what they do is they get referrals from us. So if we have a mental health case or anything like that, those are referred to them. They set up times with those individuals, or they'll try and find that individual. So we have a lot of homeless mental health in Drayton Valley, so there's a lot of times where we're helping them search and find these people to actually try and get them the help that they need and try and get them on the correct medications, all those kind of things, to be able to see doctors on at the right times and everything. So a lot of times they're a secondary resource to our initial response. However, if they're in the area and we have a situation that is pressing, they do respond to those as well if they're working at the time, so.
So that's a little different than what I thought. I thought they were responding to calls that were mental health calls.
They do try and do that, obviously based on the regions, the size of them, like Rocky Mountain House is an hour and 15 away from Drayton. So if we get one, we're the initial response team, but sometimes if they're working their way up to Drayton, they might be able to respond in time to help us mitigate anything like that.
We need about 10 teams per town.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Thank you.
No problem.
Oh, sorry, Deputy Mayor has a question.
So with this position with AHS, they've actually got a psychiatric nurse, because that's what the position called for.
That's what I'm being told, yes. I'm gonna look for confirmation,
Okay.
to say yes, like 100%, but
Because when we met with K Division at the Alberta Municipalities Convention, we knew the challenges that they'd had recruiting, and we asked if they would approach whoever was supervising the overall program to see if the position here could be downgraded either to an addictions counselor or a social worker or something like that. So it's great that they've got the psychiatric nurse, because we had asked for that downgrade, or to consider alternatives to that so that we didn't lose that position, because we believe it's of such crucial importance to be here.
what I'll do after I leave, I'll go back, because I got it in an email, and if it does specify, I will send a message to yourself, just so you know. I don't want to film through my phone with
Because the one superintendent, and I forget his name,
Smiley.
he's part of the actual team that supervises all of this,
Yeah.
and he was gonna bring that forward at the next meeting, so.
Okay,
But that's only 2 weeks ago, so pretty quick turnaround.
so I think it's Smiley is his last name, and he's included in that email train that I got, and I'll specify, I'll look to see if it's the nurse, downgraded nurse or a psychiatric nurse, so. I think they've been recruiting pretty hard to get the constable position filled too, so I think Simon was getting recruited pretty hard, so.
Maybe we should use the word alternate.
Anyway,
Alternate?
kudos to you, you got high praise right from the deputy commander all the way down, so good for you.
Okay. Well, thank you guys for that.
Question on that.
Councillor Welke?
And also just to confirm, the localization of that team, so it'd be an officer out of this detachment and the nurse based here, but then you had made mention maybe Château, Fort Vermilion, so what's the size of the RPAC team that would be, or the region, so to speak, that they'd be working out of?
So how I understand it, it's gonna be basically the three detachments,
Okay.
here. And it'll be one, medical teammate and a member teammate. They will be based at a high level. When I looked at the job board today, and this is sort of out of my area, but, it doesn't say that we have housing provided for this member in high level, although we do have forced housing here. So I imagine that's something on the higher levels that they're gonna try to, work out, because that isn't an incentive for a member to, you know, to want to come to a more isolated community that they don't have to worry about buying and selling the house after, so. It's in the works, and I think if we're 50% there and they can get the nurse here, between all three detachments, we may be able to help supplement it, at least get it going, till when there's a permanent person in there, so.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Perfect, thank you very much.
Too late.
Oh, it's okay.
I do have one other question, just it's not in regards to RPAC, right? That's what you're asking about. In a past meeting with the Chamber of Commerce, I had a discussion with a few business owners, and they were having a few concerns about a lot of theft at their stores in the past few months. And when I talked to them about it, I said I'd bring it up to you, but they said that they've put in a lot of complaints with the detachment, and they've had officers come over and talk to them, but they've never gotten any confirmation of anything afterwards.
Okay.
So I just thought I would bring it up to you guys just to
Okay,
see what would be going
I
on.
appreciate you doing that, because we should be, updating the complainant or whoever calls us, like if a theft or not a theft, we should be providing what happened with the investigation. So that's something we can look at, or I'll look at and tighten up. I know some of the thefts, we know who did it, but there's a lack of willingness to follow through with the court, aspect of it.
Yeah.
So often in those cases, there won't be any criminal charges, but, it sounds like that's not the case from what you're being.
From excuse me, from what it sounded like, is it just that the officer or whoever they were in charge of the investigation never got back to them with any details afterwards. Is what
Okay.
I believe it happened a few times.
Okay, I'll look into it, and maybe we'll talk, after the meeting or a different time, one-on-one.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you.
Is there any more questions? Thank you.
I
Have
met
a good evening.
Thank you, guys. I met your new, peace officer. He seems really nice and eager to go. He stopped by the office, so it'll be nice working with him, so thank you.
Yes. Thank you. Minutes. Anybody have any discussion, errors, spelling mistakes, omissions? Can't see you on here. All it is me. Oh, there you go. I have to turn you on.
No comment. So resolution 333-23, in the second part, it should have said further that, if there are no.
Yeah, oh, there.
Okay, I'll start over, now that my mic is turned on. Resolution 333-23, in the second part, right now it reads further that there are no suitable applicants. I think we should clarify further if there are no suitable public applicants, then 2 members. So just to clarify.
You agree with that, council? Unless a suitable candidate. It's not a suitable candidate, it's a candidate with the qualifications that Boreal Housing is looking for. Is that in the paper?
Yeah, would you rather have them say qualified
That's probably better.
And it was two from the public.
No, one and
One and
one.
one? Okay.
Okay, all in favor with that amendment? Carried. Oh, who moved that, you? All right. On to delegation business. Can I have someone accept the RCMP report for, or do you want to discuss your visit to the RCMP, or do you have that in your? Okay. Can I have someone move for information and the delegation?
I can do that.
Counselor Welke, all in favor? Carried. So, I deliberately didn't send my report to you because I wanted to read it out loud so you all paid attention. On September 26th to 29th, Counselor Jessamine and I attended AFPA. We met with Julianne Thrillfall, who is the Public and Government Affairs Manager for Alberta and the Northwest Territories, and she informed us that they are using the CN yard in High Level as a staging area to supply CN track and rail up in the territories because they have 10 mile of track and rail ties that were destroyed. So there will be increased truck traffic into the High Level yard, and they hope to be completed by the end of October. And seeing that we're having such great weather, they should be. They were just afraid that snow might come early, but anyways. I met with Darcy Henderson, finally met somebody from West Fraser. He is the Vice President of Canadian Woodlands for West Fraser, and he will be in High Level in November, and he will meet me regarding the multiplex evacuation center. I also met with Derek Nybor, who is the CAO for FPAC, which is the federal forestry, and he offered to make connections with Minister, his name's this long, Anna Degari, who is now the Minister of Indigenous Affairs in Ottawa. So he will do that if council gives me the go-ahead. Minister Lowen, we met and we discussed the closing of the tanker base, and we talked about, possibly extending the pay period, seeing as the fire season is longer than April to, or March to October now, and possibly reinstating the emergency funds that were cut under the previous government. We also discussed out-of-country command teams. As you know, during Chuck Egg, we had 4 different teams that rotated in and out of High Level, all from Canada. And out-of-country command teams take time to be trained because they don't fight fires the way we do, and it takes away time. And then, of course, we discussed the multiplex and how we are investigating different structures to reduce the costs, as well as different funding models. On September 29th, on my way home, I stopped into Fox Creek at their multi-purpose center, and I met with Brandon Pauling, who is the Director of Recreation, and he took me through their facility, and it is fabric. And it was customized to the needs of Fox Creek. It took them approximately 10 months to get their facility ready, as opposed to 2 to 3 years that it would take for a traditional. He gave me the name of their architect and also the name of the people that Legacy is who contracted to them to build it. And the fabric is an Exotech, and he showed me and he said it's more resistant to sun and more resistant to the cold weather. And it's successfully passed all these fire tests that it has to have, and it has a 25-year warranty. And Fox Creek consists of one large building that's divided into 3 areas, and he said each one of them have their unique challenges. Then they have another building that's divided into their administrative building as well as their swimming pool. And they have a lot of trouble with that swimming pool because they can't keep it cool enough in the summer and warm enough in the winter, and it's kind of always dripping water because of the siding. But he said that would have to be something that's really investigated if you put a pool into that type of facility. And I think they're the only community that has a pool in that facility. But I went online and I looked at a lot of the facilities. There's tons of them, but most of them are in the States. And there are a lot of recreational facilities that are in these places. And actually at the River Cree, one of their venues where they host their concerts is in a facility built by this company. And there's a frack and sand place in Wembley. It's pretty cool. He said it does have its challenges, but it is a lot cheaper. And he believes that couldn't tell me exactly, but he believes it was 35 million, and that was for the pool and everything. So if we take the pool out, I don't know how much that would be. But it was, and he said that if they get any cracks or anything, they have to bring in a team to weld this fabric together. They can't do it themselves. And I took a picture of it because when I was there, I said, wow, you're having construction in front of your building already. And he goes, yeah, he said, because our ceiling or our roof, the snow slides right off of it. And once it packs up, then it falls right onto the people that are entering. So they're building a sort of a veranda type so that it slides off there and can be pushed off. And then he told me that they had a pre-engineered facility as well, which is the fire hall in Fox Creek. So I didn't go in it, I just took a picture of it. But pre-engineered are way cheaper than engineered, like what we were doing. And this multiplex is cheaper than that even. So, but he did say there are challenges. It's not like, but he said the one thing about it is they got everything they wanted at half the price. So, and it's been there 5 years. Then on September 30th, I went to the Truth and Reconciliation Day at the Friendship Center. Unfortunately, because of the fires, many of the awareness events were canceled, which was kind of sad. September 30th, so we just decided we were going to have a walk anyways. And so we held the walk, and I can't remember, there were quite a few of us. And we then listened to some of the elders that were there and some of the survivors of the survivors of the school and their children and how it has affected them with their intergenerational trauma. And they had a feast. We had a feast of stew and bannock, and Toko prepared it and served it. And then we had a drum dance, a small but very nice drum dance. And then on the 30th, I had a meeting with Vice President of ATCO regarding the Friendship Park. And he was not concerned, but was wondering why we hadn't taken their 25 million yet. He said he kind of thought it was because of the fires and everything, and they weren't going to push it, but the money's going to be there when we want it. So that's a good thing. And that's my report. Or 25,000. You guys were just waiting for me to make that one mistake. So that's my report. If there's any questions. The one thing I didn't like about Fox Creek was the hallways seemed really small, like really narrow. But they had a nice mezzanine, and they had a fitness room, and the track wasn't quite what I would, but it was there. They had what do you call it? Childcare in there. So that was kind of cool.
Like municipally
Yeah.
run? Yeah.
But their administration building's in there too, so. So they run their daycare right out of there. Any questions? Could I have someone move my report, please?
I'll move your report.
Thank you. Counselor Anderson, all in favor? Carried. Deputy Mayor. I can't. I can't.
So September 27th, 28th, 29th, attended the Alberta Municipalities Conference in Edmonton. Took in a couple of their education sessions that were of interest. One was Code Blue, Municipalities to the Rescue of Healthcare, thinking that there was going to be all these municipalities talking about ambulance service and what we're going to do. And no, they were talking about doctor recruitment, retention. Cold Lake was one of the presenters. Every new doctor that comes to the community, the municipality gives them $20,000 to start off, and makes available to them through one of the banks a $50,000 line of credit that the municipality pays 100% of the interest on.
Good for them.
It is a slippery slope. There was not one single thing about emergency first responders or ambulance. It was all about doctors.
I'd rather get nurses.
There was a little bit of discussion about nurse practitioners. And one of the comments was that a lot of these positions have been offered to foreign applicants, but they're waiting for their approval process to get into Canada, which means the hiring process is closed. So even if a local person came along, that position is no longer advertised, so they can't apply. There were some questions about that, and there was going to be some follow-up, but it seems like there's maybe some issues in the AHS recruiting system.
Did they say anything about how many nurse practitioners there are in?
No, they didn't say anything about total numbers.
I'd be interested, because I bet you they're as scarce as hen's teeth.
Yeah,
Because why wouldn't, and most of them going to be doctors if they're,
one of the other interesting ones was deciphering the code for council behavior. So the
what was it?
council code of conduct
Yes,
now has to be reviewed every 4 years. So I believe we're due. So at some point, administration is going to be bringing back our counselor code of conduct. There was a presentation on overcoming roadblocks to economic development and strategic growth. However, that was more about different housing programs. There was a little bit of discussion about the CMHC program, but just the overall contractor trades shortage. Lots of municipalities are facing issues there. We met with Minister Ellis, Minister Guthrie, Minister Williams, and K-Division. To Minister Ellis and Guthrie, it was a lot about the evacuation center, our new revised model, 65 million in funding that we're looking for a third from the province. We talked about high level being a resiliency hub, and certainly there was interest. Everyone pointed out, as we all know, that there's no program for this. And they talked about the USP, the unsolicited project. So there's some discussion there. A couple of the deputy ministers were going to liaise with administration and get some follow-up information. One even asked Minister Guthrie's executive assistant even asked for a copy of the original design, all of the drawings, all of the rest. So we talked to all of them about RPAC a little bit and about continuing support. We certainly talked to K Division about that, and as I explained with Staff Sergeant Dittmer, that we had requested that they may consider on the AHS side downgrading that position, keeping the program in place, but if they can't find a psychiatric nurse to consider another position, they were gonna throw that out there. They did have high praise, as I pointed out, for what the staff sergeant is doing here, well recognized within the hierarchy at K Division, and the job that he did with all the evacuations. There was even a superintendent up handing out water and gas at the border at one point with the territories. One other thing not related to Alberta municipalities, but recently read an article about the federal riding boundaries, the redraw. Apparently Alberta, I think, is picking up 5 new ridings altogether. But if you look at the map, provided the election is called at any point after April of 2024, Chris Workington, if he's reelected, will no longer be our MP. If you look at the riding, we are going to go straight across and right down through Lacrete, Red Earth, Slave Lake, and I believe it even takes in Westlock.
Straight across where?
Straight across the north. So
Oh.
basically Mackenzie County across to the park and straight south to just north of Edmonton. I assume it takes in Westlock. So a huge riding with diverse needs, none of which will relate to what we have. Like, I was really disappointed to see that. But Chris, who's been our MP since the mid-2000s, will no longer be our MP if the election's after April. So,
Is that the Liberal government doing that?
no, each province has to do a boundary readjustment. It's a bipartisan committee. There's supposed to be no politics involved, and it's just they're simply looking at the numbers. Where are the population bases? Trying to keep the numbers within that certain percentile.
They only did it like 4 years ago.
I think they have to do it every other election. So this process would have been started after 2 elections ago. It would have taken a couple of years for the recommendations to come out. And apparently this report's been out since February. And I just happened to stumble across it. But
What's it under?
just under federal,
And we don't have any,
we would have no say whatsoever.
wow.
So anyway, the fact that we're in sort of New Brunswick right now, in terms of landmass, will be in like
The Maritimes?
bigger than the Maritime, like it's a massive, massive riding. But, you know, we may have certain things in common with the Westlock, but, you know, when they're 45 minutes from Edmonton as opposed to 7 hours, I was stunned when I saw that.
Oh, one question, when did our facility go up to 65 million? I've never heard that number.
That's the number that I was told that the new estimate was for 65 million.
That's the new estimate?
That's down.
There is no good estimate, just based on what some of the figures we were looking at. That was the number that was, that when they asked what we would be at, we thought, we said we could bring it down, we could in that area. We don't have time.
That's the number I was provided.
What?
That's the number I was provided with. And
What number are you thinking in your mind?
What, I'm not thinking a number in my mind.
But you said what brought our number up to 65? What, was it lower than that?
Well, the facility that we were looking for, the field house and the arena, not the entire facility. And when we initially told the province, it was 35 million. We were looking,
That was only for the field house, so. That didn't include the arena, so.
anyway, that's my report.
Thank you. Any questions? A little book on what? On the AUMA conference?
The hard copy.
Counselor Anderson?
On September 27th, I attended a high-level library board meeting. Had one more resignation from one of the members. He's moving. So they'll be looking for as many more board members as they can get. And I don't know, I think, has that been advertised as well? Okay, excellent. And then on October 4th, I attended the Golden Range Society meeting as well. That's all I have.
Any questions? Thank you. Counselor Jessamine?
Yeah, okay,
It's on.
good. As the same as the mayor on the 27th, 28th, 29th, I did attend the AFPA annual general meeting and really enjoyed it. There was a lot of good discussion, met with a number of the company, provincial foresters, and there's going to be some proposals coming forward for some potential support as far as wildfire. I can't say any more than that at this time, but they will be putting proposals forward to the province, so that's encouraging for our area. On the 29th, which was Friday morning, there was a lot, no, Thursday was the economist, correct? From the US, there was a US economist there, give a 2 hour, 3 hours, no, 2 hour at least.
2 hours.
2 hour spiel about the future for forestry and talked a lot, well, while the presentation was regards to housing and the US economy and that, it's still tied very closely to Canada's lumber industry. And so I think overall, in the gist of it all, in the end, the forest industry can expect a fairly flat line for the next number of years, no highs and lows. And he did talk about a soft recession. That's what he called it, and that's what they're forecasting, his group. Not that it'll be an extreme one, or but they figure there will be a recession. He's calling it a soft recession. So while that's good for the forest companies, fire was also a huge discussion topic throughout the week as well on the horizon, as we've seen over the last few weeks. A large addition to the area burnt this fall, which will have a huge impact by the local forest company. There's been discussions already being held for future potential for closures of mills across the province. So that's a little concerning, but nothing concrete at this time, but it is on the horizon. As we all know, BC was heavily impacted by mountain pine beetle and fires over the last 5 years. The loss of timber in this past year is quite concerning for the forest industry, and going forward, we couldn't take another year like this. If we were, there would be probably major closures. On Friday, morning was well attended. We had a day, or the morning consisted of First Nation elders and discussion roundtables, and that was really cool to be a part of and to see how the AFPA has really brought the elder community within the province under their fold and being a part of all that they do. And there was a lot of great stories and discussions in that. So again, I really enjoyed it for the first time there, and I'd highly recommend in the future councillors to attend it. That's all I have.
Any questions? Thank you, Councillor Jessamine. Councillor Lambert.
I have no meetings to report.
Thank you. Councillor LeBron.
On September 27th, I also attended the High Level Municipal Library Board meeting. Just want to re-say what Brent said. If anybody's interested in joining the board, please come and make it known. We would definitely enjoy some new members. And then also on the 27th, I attended the Film Task Force meeting, but I will let Jan report to that. So that's it for me.
Thank you. Counselor Welke.
On September 26th, or September 26th through the 29th, I also attended the Alberta Municipalities Convention, the Deputy Mayor and some of administration. I'll echo a lot of what the Deputy Mayor had already said with regards to our meetings. A couple of the sessions that I went to, again, I was attended the healthcare one as well, and yes, it was all about doctors, and I think we've talked about this before. You know, the extent to which a municipality would get involved in healthcare, which is a provincial mandate, but I think we're seeing a lot of municipalities are entering that sphere out of sheer necessity because the province, AHS, and, you know, seems to be struggling with, you know, tackling some of these recruitment things for specific areas. So municipalities are coming up with creative ways on their own, and I think it's worthy, you know, of an ongoing discussion as we move forward. But all in all, I think we're fairly good here. I'm in healthcare, and I notice that our situation is a lot better than a lot of other smaller rural places. So, you know, I do think that it's not dire here as in some of these places where they're coming up with a lot of municipal initiatives to bring these people in. So, but it was interesting nonetheless. The other session I attended was specific to the TV and film industry. And I had attended remotely the TV and Film Task Force as well from Edmonton. But I wanted to put some notes together for a report to them as I listened to a panel that consisted of the mayor of Sundre, the mayor of Didsbury, and the reeve of Mountain View County. So that entire region is working very hard on this to, you know, bring and, you know, establish that industry in the province. They have the first rural TV and film office in Alberta outside of the cities, and it's virtual. It's based out of Didsbury, but it's a resource for anybody like what we're doing up here to tap into, or for the industry to tap into to do work in their regions. So I will put that together for our own TV and Film Task Force and then report on that later. But they have a great website. They have great promotional video, of course, and yeah, it's exciting. What the mayors and the reeve explained from those regions was that industry brings a lot of not only the economic spin-off, but just a lot of excitement and the involvement of the communities. So it's pretty amazing when these productions come to an area how much the community gets involved. So it's you know, it's kind of it's a feel-good industry, I think, to have, and to be prepared, though, I think is important, which is what we're trying to do. You know, so we're able to, you know, step up and, you know, and help this industry if, you know, if they come to our region. I'd like to see the cooperation amongst our neighboring municipalities, like I saw with these guys, and maybe that's something that we have talked about once our task force initiatives go forward, you know, and if we accept them as a municipality, then we look at more of the marketing and the regional aspect to it. But it's a lot of work, and they had 3 municipalities who were all on board and working together at this down there, so it's nice to see. The meetings with the ministers, the deputy mayor did a fantastic job presenting, you know, our cases to them. First and foremost, yes, was a multipurpose facility. It still seems to kind of jump around between who would like to be championing it or responsible for it, or, you know, who would, you know, kind of take it to Treasury and that sort of thing. I think, and as we mentioned, the main thing at this point now is we need a concrete submission to have on their table. Up till now, we've been talking about our one big plan. Now we're talking about a little bit smaller plan, but there's still not an official submission. So we have to get that in and move forward with something fairly concrete. So, but it was receptive, and I think the events of this past summer really contributed to, the evidence for us for this type of facility. So that was very well received. And even another minister we just met with in the hall, just brought it up out of just a random, asked how we're doing about our multi-purpose facility project. So that was Minister Swanee? Yeah. So, Deputy Mayor, did you talk about the Footner Lake water infrastructure? Oh, okay. So I kind of like, this was in our briefing note, and we did talk about this with the Minister of Infrastructure. And I think that this was an example of something where we're coming to the provincial government and actually sort of updating them on a process that we're willing to take back once it's done. And so I hope that that's memorable, for them, that it wasn't just a gimme kind of thing. It's like, here's, something that we're willing to take back once their project's complete, and it looks like it'll all be completed, that infrastructure. So, so that was, I think that was a good thing to communicate with the minister. And the RPAC with K-Division, sounds like we're making good progress there. It will be good to see specifically what type of healthcare worker will be assigned to this area, but regardless, it should be, a great addition, and it will work with us, especially since we communicated that we don't necessarily need a psychiatric nurse, we feel, but a variety of disciplines in that mental health sphere would work in that program, I think, so. And that is about it. It finished off the convention with listening to Rachel Notley, the leader of the opposition, give an address to the convention delegates, and then followed up by the Premier, Danielle Smith. And so those talks were very interesting, and we were entertained with the comedy group, The Debaters, which was extremely funny. So the question to the debaters was, is being a mayor the best job in the world? So, what's that? Or not, yeah. And it was actually a tie. So the comedians were... That's CBC host. Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty funny, yeah, so... then later on in the final afternoon, we met with Minister Williams and our MLA, and kind of just reiterated the same things. We kind of go over with him a little bit different contexts. We talked more about the mental health things, but again, our multi-purpose facility all ties into that. So, and that's all I have to report.
Any questions for Councillor Welke? I have one question.
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean by concrete plans?
They don't have anything sitting in front of them. They don't have an official submission for what we want.
Like to a program or
For the multi-purpose facility?
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah, because we don't have a program to submit to it. Like there's nothing to submit to unless we go with the,
well, I guess, yeah, we had talked about those,
there's no hole for us to put an
I see what you mean,
application in.
because this is also multi-ministry, so it's
Yeah.
hard to pinpoint where to submit it exactly. There was talk of the, what's the program called, of the unsolicited projects, but
we didn't want to go there yet, because once you put it in there, that's it for advocating for it.
right.
And we hadn't had anything from the federal government. So
Okay.
I mean, to put something concrete together to put before them, we need to get everybody on board, and that's why we've gone to a different type of facility
Right.
whereby we might not need the federal, well, we probably still need them, but
Yeah, but now where it's like a chicken and the egg thing, so we need to submit something to somebody. So that's the discussion, I guess. Where
Yeah.
do we, who do we
we've-
hand this package to of what we need?
we've been kind of having that discussion in the
Because
fact.
that's what they're asking for as well.
Well,
Because
we have,
right now, it's all a good idea, it's great, it sounds great, but like,
well, we have, that's one of the steps, is to talk to the people. Where we need to submit it, I don't know. If we're looking at 65 million now, the provincial government is not going to.
well, kind of the request is a one-third split, which I think is what the premier had expressed, that these types of projects is favorable or sound. The provincial government is more interested in that kind of scenario,
So are you suggesting we submit to them before we line up the ducks? We need some commitment from the federal government, and without any meetings with the federal government, we can't get commitment.
Another thing I think they mentioned, and Boyd, correct me if I'm wrong, there was a talk of it's never too soon to start getting your private commitment, like your sponsorship commitment in place, especially if it's going to the unsolicited, I think was how it was worded,
So we have never had a contact with West Fraser
right?
until I made this contact this week, or at this AFPA.
I'm not saying we're at fault for anything, I'm just saying, like, that's kind of the impression that I got from the ministers is they need, if they're gonna start really considering and passing this around, like, they need that thing, like, we didn't have the new plans, of course, because it's been downsized.
Well, we don't even know what it's downsized
Right,
to yet.
so that's just, I think, we're going to continue, I think, probably just talking about it if we don't get something physically submitted,
Did you
like a
have something
final
to say?
decision.
Yeah, I totally agree with Janet. I think we need to get a working session going here and get some stuff hashed out to get it shelf ready to present.
Mhm.
And give to them. We've been talking about this, we've been talking about sponsorships for the last 2 to 3 years, but I totally agree with that as well. We need some commitment, and I think we start getting this company, that company to commit, we will start to get some movement. So we just constantly talk about this, what we're gonna do, but there's no concrete,
And those commitments can be as simple as contingent on the successful, moving forward of the project kind of thing, right? So it's all, I mean, that's what we want from all of them, but everyone wants somebody else to jump first, I guess, and so having even the private commitments in place is good for the promotion of the project to both levels of government, I feel.
All right. Do you have something to say? Okay. Could I have a motion to accept council committee reports, please? What? Thank you. All in favor? Carried. Council action list. That's why we never have time to discuss things. So I guess I'm going to step into this action list because it's not on here. The airport task force that you'd asked me to come in and speak to you about, and sorry I couldn't make it. So the task force sits at waiting because a lot of the stuff that was on the go was administrative duties, and they were like lighting for the kiosks, furniture for the holding rooms, all of that, the TV, like it was all contingent upon things that Keith was going to do. And then of course the fires hit and then nothing got done. So we don't even know what our budget is.
Madam Mayor, that was one of the reasons I wanted to sit down with you and just get a handle on where the committee was at. The Airport Beautification Task Force has not met since last summer. So it's been over a year since the committee sat down together. There were a number of items that were left there, but when I went out to the airport and walked through, talked to the users, talked to our manager, there's a number of things that have been left sort of hanging. They haven't been completed. And that's why I wanted to sort of find out where the committee had left it and where we needed to go from there. You will have a brand new budget this year because everything was spent out of the 2022 budget, so 2023 should be there as well. And I've asked Director Phillips to start going through those numbers to see how much has come out of that into that airport improvement fund as well.
We have met since last summer.
That's the
We
last.
might not have minutes, but we did meet.
Okay. The last minutes that I have of record, Linda was still employed with us.
Yeah, well, we've had meetings since she was there.
I have no record of them.
Who was taking minutes? Yeah. I don't know where they are then. But, yeah, we have met and we were looking for, like, where we left it was the kiosks. Because we didn't, like, he had ordered or had contacted a company to get those lights over the kiosk. It looks like Sky. And, I mean, we waited for that. We talked about furniture, like that was a huge discussion. We were waiting to order stools for that one facility or like in front of the.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's kind of where I mean, I guess that's our fault, I don't know, but when administration can't meet, you know, like it's pretty hard to have a meeting.
And anyway, Madam Mayor, that is why I'm trying to, that's why I'd wanted to meet with you to see where that committee is sitting at.
So I did write it down, what we're working on.
Had the committee picked out furniture?
We had sort of picked out furniture, but we were looking at, like using those tables, because they're still good. And the chairs were still good. So instead of doing that, we were looking at perhaps having the chairs recovered, but
Okay.
then, I don't know where that's at.
Nor do I,
can't
Madam Mayor.
say. And we were gonna get the tables done like, the kiosks with that Arbright,
Okay.
but apparently we can't. But I mean, those are all things that I have no control over.
Madam Mayor, what my suggestion is that we sit down, we get the committee back together, we try to get this back on track.
And I guess that's one of the reasons that, you know, like Luke was on the committee, so he has a lot of the knowledge of what we were doing and where we were going for this information, because we don't have, you know, where the lighting comes from and where the different colors and. So we did get a lot done. We got the painted, we got the floor done, and we were sitting at the furniture stage. The counter's done. And Darlene was looking at furniture,
Darlene was?
yeah.
Okay. I'd reach out to her as well. But it might not hurt to pick a date and have the task force sit in. We'll see what kind of information we can pull together from what has been done with that and where it's currently sitting.
Yeah, we can call them, like, I didn't even call the meetings, like administration as they had their stuff done, called the meeting. Because we couldn't have a meeting if we didn't know what the prices and
Where the
things were.
situation's at, yes.
So, I will try to track those minutes down. I think Brandy may have taken some minutes.
Yeah, I did too, and I forget how to pass them in.
But we did hold meetings.
Okay.
Because we did do the sign, the signage on the front and the arrivals and departures sign.
Is there administrative support on that task force?
Yeah. The administrative support no longer works for the town.
All right. Yes.
And up,
Good.
One of the administrative support still does. Keith,
No. I'm sorry, I'm thinking that your
well, the second.
Your clerical
Minute
support.
taker.
Yeah. She's going to have to do that for you now because I was doing it from the back.
Yeah, Sandra had attended a few meetings. What?
nothing.
We've got an interruption in the staff.
You have to turn me on.
What? Jeez. This darn thing. I hate this thing.
Need a hand?
No.
Could we get an update on the streetlights on 103rd?
The streetlights at 103rd are waiting on ATCO to have time to put up streetlights on 103rd. And
Especially as
their
we
priorities
move
are
into
keeping-
winter now, it's,
Well, it may be, but their priority right now is keeping power into communities.
yeah, absolutely.
So I'll check with Jesse and see where we are and whether there's an ETA on that and let you know. But
Can they do it if if it's, once everything freezes?
yeah, they're on screw
Yeah,
piles.
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. I can turn myself off.
But you just can't turn yourself on. And see, now it doesn't have anybody on here, but both Josh and Brent are on.
Terry's wants some attention now.
I know. Brent, we'll go, see?
Everybody does.
See, it's not on here. I know what to press, but Brent's counselor is not on here.
You have to maybe scroll.
See, I got him here. Did that turn you on? No?
Go to delegates. Yeah, there you go.
Oh, there he is. There.
Can we get an update on what is taking place at the Stampede grounds? And whether they have applied for any permits to do what they're doing?
So the camp that went in at the rodeo or the Ag Society's property was at the behest of Alberta Wildfire. They had no places to put the 200 odd people that they were bringing up to fight the Bassett Lake fire when it flared up. And I do believe that they have submitted permits on that. Director Gavin?
Hello. Yes, I did have a chat with their logistics chief on Friday, I think it was, and we did chat about the scope of the camp, and they did submit permit applications today, so we will get on that tomorrow. So the camp arrived not Sunday just gone, the Sunday before, and I did ask them if end of year was good enough dates for it to be removed, and they're hoping that it should be gone. They said beginning of November, but we shall see.
Councillor Lambert? Let's see, it went out again.
Go back. Like, scroll.
I did. The
I know this was in closed session before, but I'm assuming since it's on the action list, it's might be public knowledge. But just on the last thing there, in regards to the Powerwood Canada Corp, the pellet plant they were talking about. I just want to get through any other discussion or communications with them at all.
Sure, I'll let Director Gavin.
Thanks for the question. I just received the appraisal on Saturday, so the price per acre that we could hope to achieve. I did have a very brief discussion with the private landowner of the 3 small parcels that are smack bang in the middle there. She is willing to sell, so I just haven't communicated with her the price. I was going to call her tomorrow and then reach back out to Powerwood about the price per acre, and then hopefully come back to the next council meeting with options. That is my timeline. So that's where we're at with that.
Okay. It's all up here. I had one other question, just in regards to Main Street, 100th Ave. I know we had brought it up the last meeting. Is that going to be discussed during budget?
Actually, Haley and I have met with the engineers a couple of times this week, and I think we have everything straightened out, and they're prepared to make a presentation to council at your committee of the whole next week
Perfect.
on the design.
Perfect. Thank you.
While we're at it, when can we expect to see the audit?
Director Phillips?
We haven't heard any communication from them, so I'm going to be sending them a meeting invite because the communication by email. So if they have an invite with the CAO and myself, hopefully they can schedule it by Friday, if not their earliest convenience. So we'd really like to know what kind of timeline we need to expect with where they're at. We haven't had any communication from them.
So they're not responding to you by email?
No, since the last email that was sent out, we haven't received. It's been about 3 weeks. 1 week definitely, we were away, but all of my emails were auto-replied with where we were, so.
Okay, Councillor Jessamine.
I know we've already talked about this as well, but an update on the latest update on the the VAC Center with the new engineer firm that we're talking with.
So I spoke with Joanne Smith from Sahari. We've gone back and forth. Jen has been involved in the conversations as well. They're just clarifying some of the functions that we wanted to include in that design, and they expect to have a design to us with this with the modular shape, focusing on the field house and the arena by the end of November.
Okay.
And sorry, I just wanted to clarify because I was in the back. The 65 million did come up in a conversation, but I'm not exactly certain where it came from. And I believe what it was somebody taking the math of the 35 million out of the $100 million that the original project was. So our communication to the province was that their 1/3 share in the new facility should be less than $20 million. So we haven't actually set a price, but that's what. One of the things that Sahari is doing is they've also gone to our tech costing consultant. So we should have a Class C estimate on the building as well.
Is that a pre-engineered or a fabric?
Yeah, we're looking at pre-engineered, prefabricated. She's looking at a number of options with us. The main idea is to have it be a little different than the Fox Creek, because I believe the Fox Creek is kind of daisy chained together. It's one long line of these put together.
It's 2 buildings.
Okay. What we're looking at is a stick-built front, very similar to what the arena curling rink currently has, and then these buildings coming off at the back of it. So your main foyer, your kitchens, your concessions, all of that stuff would be in this larger building, which could also then have offices or meeting rooms, and then your arena would come off here, and your multi-purpose facility here, and eventually your curling rink and your aquatic center. So that's the design we're looking at now, so she's looking at options on that as well. And I'm sure nobody online saw me do that, so. Nobody online saw my nice little.
Yeah. Okay, no, just like to reiterate that, yeah, I think we need to start making an effort to secure some of this funding, and like Councillor Jan mentioned, that it'll look better for us as we present to our partners that we have commitment and we have a solid plan in place. So, yeah, thank you for that.
Any other questions? Could I have someone move the action list?
I'll move the action.
Counselor Anderson, all in favor? Carried. Upcoming events, is there any discussion? I thought Get to Know You Night was tomorrow. Sorry, I missed it.
It was fantastic.
Okay, could I have someone move it, please? All in favor? Carried. I think because you had it in the same email as the TP raising, I thought it was the same night. Doesn't take much. Monthly report from administration. What IPM meeting did you attend?
Oh, the IMPC.
All right,
I'm sorry, the IMPC. It was a subdivision just toward the north. It's probably the furthest north one the county's done yet. I would think it's
The one that I reported on.
oh,
yeah.
and they're draining their septic and fields into the,
They have a 10-acre subdivision for that person. He's subdividing 10 acres.
yeah,
Which allows them then to have a pump out, right? They don't have to bring in a super truck.
yeah.
So the concern was if they pump it out, to make sure that it isn't being pumped into a creek or that drains into.
Oh,
This would be the first subdivision they've done. Most of the subdivisions are further south, which is in the outflow area of Footner Lake. This is the first one they've done on the north end, which is into the inflow area of Footner Lake.
so when they pump out, because I'm not acquainted with that, is it treated?
No,
It just sits there and,
percolates, evaporates, or sinks back into the ground.
Doesn't it go into a tank where it kind of does stuff and then overflows into the field?
Yes.
It's a solid state that drains, overflows into a liquid state, which is then pumped out.
Yeah.
oh,
But
so,
But it's not a field, it's just pumped out onto the ground.
but the solid stuff doesn't go. Okay. All right, that was my question. Is there any other questions? Can I have someone move the reports and? Oh. Jeez, this is really, like, it should be right here.
And just touch the mic. Yeah.
I just had a question for Director Gavin. In regards to the rural renewal stream, do we have is there a timeline on how long that's roughly going to take before we hear an answer back? Which that a lot of business owners ask in regards to that.
In all honesty, anybody's guess is as good as mine. I assume we're going to hear in the next few weeks. I'm trying to think now, I submitted the application early September, and they did write back to me asking for more information. So by the time I resubmitted with the additional information, which was just them asking for a list of the businesses who had inquired with us directly on the program, I believe it was October 2nd. So just resubmitted recently. There was a review committee at the end of September. So I'm hoping that we did get some type of preliminary review without that little list. But I'm still hoping by November we'll be ready to go. But I couldn't tell you. I don't know.
Okay. And then once that, say if we do go forward with it, and then we still need to hire another person for that position, correct?
No, that person started today.
Okay, so that is what that position's for? Or in,
Yes, not
like,
100%.
part of it,
Yeah, it's 50-50 between the NRED project and this one. So we are going to be doing all of the setup to be able to issue endorsement, I was trying to think of the word then, endorsement letters as soon as we're ready to go. But this is on the premise that we are accepted as a designated community. The application we submitted does not guarantee. They have to do an assessment. I'm hopeful that we will be approved, but I don't know that for a fact.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
So don't take down your Airbnb. Any other questions? Seeing none, can I have a motion, please?
make a motion to accept the report to council.
Counselor Welke, all in favor? Carried. Old business, the RFD for the purchase of the residential property. What? Are you going to report on this?
Madam Mayor, the RFD, it's been presented to council. We did go review the buildings. Director Phillips and Director Gavin came with me. They are in very good shape. It looks like they've been kept up, maintained well. We went through them in quite a bit of detail, looking at the rooms. The northernmost one, which would be the 10207, there is some flooring issues. It's wear and tear. There's no real damage to either of these houses. The 10309 is actually in quite good shape. Both of them are occupied. They have leases. I think I've detailed that in the report. But what infrastructure would do is they would roll those leases over to us, and then we would re-sign leases with the tenants. Our recommendation is that if we do purchase the properties, that we would leave the tenants in it for the winter. That would give us time to, I don't like evicting anybody in the middle of winter anyway. And then we would look at least one unit, trying to open it up for the spring for when our spring hire and our seasonal hiring takes place.
Question? Counselor Anderson?
Yeah, so my question is, looking at this with the long-term leases that exist now, or at least in the one that's, fairly substantial lease to 2027, if we purchase a property and break the lease, and then it states in here to release it to that same, or possibly to that same person, where does that benefit the town if that property is under lease to just an ordinary citizen, and the town needs the property? Because you can't just break a lease and evict them. There is a certain time frame that you have to supply them with to leave. So I'm not sure where these two properties, the way they're situated or the way they're set up here with leases, are of any benefit to the town.
Madam Mayor, what Alberta Infrastructure has said they will do is they will give notice on the leases. They have 90-day notice on the leases and allow the town to enter into new leases with the leaseholders, or that would be an eviction notice for both leaseholders. Because of the timing, that would be probably end up in January, February, which probably is not something we'd want to do to the families living in there. So the new leases would then give specific rates. I would not recommend entering into a 5-year lease on any of our rental properties, which would then allow us to be able to use one of the facilities right away. We're looking at, these are 3-bedroom units with a bedroom in the basement, so you could have four individuals living in either of these houses. And again, we don't know what the long-term goals of the tenants are either. The tenants may be looking at the end of the school year or whenever. That's a conversation we would have to have with them at that time.
So if you entered into a new lease, you could just give a 6-month lease, right?
Yes. But yeah, we would be, I believe we're governed by the Landlord and Tenant Act. It's a little stranger when it comes to public bodies, but I think we would try to be as fair as possible to the leaseholders or the tenants.
So it's not my turn. Counselor Lebrion.
My concern was just the same as Brent's there, is what benefit is this going to have if we're reissuing leases to the current tenants, and whether they're going to be, the prices shown here in the package, the rent for the one is $1,000 a month. That's not fair market value even for a property like that. So is there a way that we could maybe like the mayor said, a 6-month lease sort of thing, just so they're not left high and dry. But like, it seems like we need to have this open to staff as soon as possible, right?
We would, if council does proceed with the purchase, we'll bring back with the fees bylaw at budget time, recommended rental rates. We're currently charging, sorry, Jerry, $1,000 for the house at the airport, which is considerably smaller and not quite as convenient.
Yeah, one is $750 a month and one is $1,000 a month at the airport.
So,
And
yeah,
they're
we'd have to look
responsible
at,
for utilities?
Yeah, except for water.
yeah. One of the things, sorry, Madam Mayor, there is one section in here under financial that's got a whole bunch of excess by a dollar sign. Infrastructure was not able to give us utility costs because the utilities are the responsibility of the tenant. So they have no records of utility costs.
Okay. Deputy Mayor, were you next? It doesn't put you in order. Deputy Mayor.
So my question was gonna be, have we seen the existing lease agreements? Because we would be covered under the Residential Tenancy Act, and unless there's a provision in the existing lease that in the event of the sale of the property, 90 days notice could be given. Otherwise, we're stuck with the 5-year term.
That was what infrastructure provided us in writing, is that on the sale, that they would give 90 days notice and allow the town to enter into new agreements. So I imagine that's what the province is following.
But that would have to be a term of the existing lease. So I'm just curious as to whether or not we can get a copy of it. And
Yeah, I will have them provide that to us. It's, I'm going to guess because of the individuals I'm with, that's probably a normal clause in that, because I think the government has a tendency to dump their housing, even if they do have people in it, so.
okay, but the lease is binding on the purchaser. So, you know, if they're selling revenue properties, a buyer may look for that lease to be there.
Yeah.
Because the only way under the Residential Tenancy Act, and I'm not sure how municipality would fit in there, the only way you can terminate a fixed term lease like this is if the owner intends to occupy the property themselves. And here, we would maybe have staff, but we wouldn't be technically occupying in ourselves. So we may be stuck with some rather lengthy leases here.
I can bring that up again with them. That was the gist of our conversation, because they needed to know what our intentions were for the properties. And when we said it was to house municipal staff, they said that would fit within their criteria.
So I would rather see them give their tenant notice and have the closing date follow the 90-day expiration period, so that this is their problem and not the town's. We could, you know, if we're gonna enter into a short-term agreement with them, we could certainly make them aware that we're prepared to do a 4-month, 6-month lease or something.
Have it prepared for when the transfer takes place.
Yes.
Yeah, that'd be fair. But yes, I can get a copy of those leases if council wanted to table this. Oh. It's the impression that I've been given, but I have not seen the leases themselves, no.
Counselor Jessamine?
Just a few things. So I was curious of why we wouldn't go with a more in-depth inspection of the house. I understand when we walk through it, the cosmetics may look fine, but those are small compared to some of the bigger ticket items like roofing, the attic, plumbing, furnaces. So I know he'd mentioned in there that there wasn't an inspection done. Why wouldn't we do one?
We hadn't been given the time. We were able to access these last week. It appears that the HVAC system is fairly new, just from a cursory inspection. I'm not an expert in that, but it's not an old system by any stretch of the imagination. There'd been repair work done on the foundations and on the floor. Some of it looked like it had been put in lines for an air conditioning system. I believe we were told by infrastructure, now I'm going to have to check that, the shingles had been replaced recently. And the exterior is, it's a clapboard, or what do you call that? It's a hardboard siding, which could be painted as easily as.
So do we get any guarantee against like asbestos or mold? Like
Not unless you get a structural and you've got. They're only $1,000, aren't they? $1,200 to get a structural. Well, that's what Melissa's was. through Ernie.
So to have a home inspector, they're so full of disclaimers, the only way to actually have something that you can rely on and claim would be to our engineering company to come up and implement some Grand Prairie. You're probably looking at $9,000 per house.
Okay.
And then an engineer would use its stamps. So
But,
they're drilling holes in the wall, they're putting inspection points in there.
but I mean,
But a structural person here, like a Bill, like Ernie does them.
anyway, we're not gonna debate that right
Okay.
now, but I've had several of them, I've been through them and watched them go through them, and I mean, they go into the attics, they do check the wiring, these are professionals, so I'd be more comfortable with one of those. Anyway, the other one was just the tenants, like our expectations for tenants, so, we say it's for the town, you mentioned seasonals, like typically our seasonals come from within town, so we very seldom hire out of town, or correct me if I'm wrong.
No, we've had seasonal employees in community services, protective services that have come from outside of town.
Okay,
And a lot of the new hires, the short-term hires within community services, even the ones that were just hired in planning and development, there was a struggle finding houses. In fact, I have one young gentleman living in my basement until he finds housing, so.
okay, no, that's perfect. Yeah, that's it for me. But a little concerning, I do have rentals and I've dealt with them for many years, and I have government housing that those inspections are pretty important, and we've had them done in the past by provincial inspectors, not engineers, so.
And I could also ask for a maintenance record on those buildings.
That would go a long
Infrastructure
way.
should have that. And that would give the age of the furnaces when the shingles were done, that type of thing.
Thank you.
Counselor Welke?
Yeah, I agree. A little bit more extensive inspection. Like, I don't think we need the stamped engineered inspection, but yeah, these inspections that give you a higher level of confidence that the things that we can't see with a walkthrough are okay, foundation and attic and roof and things like that. But my question though was kind of similarly along the lines of Councillor Jessamine with regards to tenancy. Can you just clarify how the savings on hotel rooms would work? Like, typically, these are homes. Are they going to be set up to, like, realistically house multiple unrelated people? Or would it be, like, one employee and perhaps their family? Or is it going to be new employees being asked to take a bedroom in this group house where others are living, that sort of thing, right? And how does that impact the savings for hotel rooms? Because if we're paying for hotel rooms for some types of remote or temporary employees, but then asking them to pay rent if they go into one of the homes that we own, that sort of thing, like.
We haven't gotten into that detail yet,
Okay.
but yes, they are group homes. So these would be, you would be renting a room with a common living room and a common kitchen. That is the intention of these. These are short-term accommodations. We're not renting.
Just to get people here, get them working, and then.
Get them to find another spot if they
Yeah.
need, or stay there for the 4 months they might be here during the summer. Or we have Miss Gavin that comes up, works remotely, Mr. Rushton works remotely. So that would give them a little more comfortable spot rather than a motel room for the time that they're here.
Okay. But then they would pay rent?
That has not been determined, but the discussion with council at the last meeting is that we would rent this on a room by month, per room basis.
Okay.
But for the staff, yeah, we'll bring back a recommendation to council.
Okay. Yeah. Then I guess that being said, it's hard to even say that eliminating the need for hotel rooms would save the town.
If you were giving them a room rather than renting a hotel room, you're saving $15,000 a year, even if you don't charge them.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay.
We also have consultants that come up and work for short periods of time, that type.
Where we're basically then maybe not charging them, but they're in our own facilities.
Well, we'd have paid for their stay anyway, right?
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you. This was a request for decision, but it seems like we have a lot of questions.
Are you calling this meeting? Where am I?
I'm looking at you, and I'm asking you.
Well, wait,
Think you
give
go
me a
loud.
chance
Okay,
to.
okay, all right. I'm finished, thank you.
So, given the amount of information that council would like to bring back, could we please either table this or,
Yeah, Madam Mayor, if you'd like to table it to the committee of the whole, I'll see if I can get that information.
yeah, maybe you should bring it to committee of whole so we can have a further discussion.
Yep.
Go ahead. Can't cut you off.
Is there some urgency, or are we good for timing?
The urgency was October the 11th. That's what infrastructure said as a deadline, but because we have expressed interest, they've waived that date.
Okay.
So I think we're good.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, can I have a motion to table to committee of whole?
I'll make that motion.
Counselor Welke, all in favor? Carried. Okay, RFD on the ATCO fee. No, let's keep it the same.
Madam Mayor, Director Phillips will answer any questions on that.
Good evening, Council and Madam Mayor. Yes, so the recommendation put forth is just to acknowledge that we did have a 12.1% in the 2023 fiscal year, and to recommend that we keep it the same unless council wishes otherwise.
Council, we're one of the highest franchise fee. Yes, we are. What's your wish? Okay, we'll make a motion.
I'd like to make the motion to keep it the same at 12.1% for 2024.
Any discussion? All in favor? Carried. Okay, so under 14.1. Correspondence for action. This actually, I had a discussion with Chief Wilford, and I asked that perhaps he leave this to our face-to-face council meetings so that we could have a discussion on perhaps partnering on a facility like this. What's council's? Or would you rather just write the letter of support and you agree with what? Deputy Mayor?
Oh, I'm all in favor of supporting the band in their efforts to have the rehabilitation center here. However, this gets us into the slippery slope if we're partnering, putting municipal funding in. One of the discussion topics with Minister Williams was the province is looking at adding 10,000 new beds in rehabilitation facilities. He wouldn't commit to any funding for our region per se, but the province is really aware of this, and because of our ask to have First Nations recognized as a municipal partner, if there was certainly some provincial funding that we could apply for as a joint project, I would certainly be in favor of that. It's just, this is that whole slippery slope of getting into provincial area of responsibility.
So, can I speak?
You're the chair.
This was never an intent that we partner funding-wise. This was an intent to discuss how we could help out, how we could become some sort of partner in our friendship agreement with this, other than just giving a piece of paper saying, yes, we support it. And there's an avenue right there is, I know we don't recognize the First Nations, but it's time that we start that discussion. And I mean, that's something that if you guys had that discussion with Minister Williams, that perhaps would be a way of leveling, raising the bar on that funding. if we have a federal partner as well.
Oh, I agree 100%.
So it was never a discussion, it was just, let's come to the table as two councils and discuss our fire agreement, discuss this, you know?
Sorry, I mistook your comment to partner in a facility with them. That means dollars to me.
But I agree, like, but if we can leverage that funding from the province.
Oh, absolutely.
Counselor Wilkie.
Yeah, there wasn't much confidence in us getting part of these treatment beds, but there was discussion on high level or area being a great place for transitional housing. So once people go through a treatment program, then to have, you know, that stable environment, you know, to get, you know, get their life back on track kind of thing. So I think it's, yes, definitely worthy of having a face-to-face discussion with maybe that in mind. And we should probably engage our MLA, you know, a little bit more so on that fact if, you know, or at least inform him that they're looking at this project and looking for a letter of support, and then that kind of thing could go with it. But yeah, if it meant provincial dollars, then.
Well, that's what I'm hoping.
Mm-hmm.
CEO?
Madam Mayor, one of the comments that Minister Williams made is that he would appreciate the town helping facilitate any conversations with the Denetah on their plans for detox and addictions treatment. So if we do get a joint meeting together, it might not hurt to ask Minister Williams to attend a portion of that.
Sure. Whenever we get that meeting together.
Yes, I'll reach out to EDO ASILS this week.
Okay. So do you need a motion for that? Do you want to make a motion? That we engage the Denetah and Minister Wilson? Williams. Minister Williams. Yeah, Minister Wilson as well. Keep him informed, in the loop. All in favor? Carried. The Alberta Association of Police Governance.
Madam Mayor, the Alberta Association of Police Governance is looking for citizens at large. The criteria are there. However, we would be eligible for the seat that is essentially the non-specific rural member. And I was just bringing that forward to council to see if council's interested in putting someone forward to that.
Are you interested?
6 members at large who are, I don't hold up much hope that we're gonna get one, but this would be like 6 meetings in person in Red Deer. That part doesn't accept it.
Okay. Anybody else? Could I have someone move to nominate Deputy Mayor to sit on this committee? Who's going to do the application? You?
Well, we can do most of the work, but it actually has to come from Deputy Mayor Langford himself.
Okay.
I'll reach out to Ms. Chester.
Okay. Does somebody want to make that motion? Councillor Jessamine, all in favor? Carried. Correspondence for information, any discussion on that? Could I have a motion, please? Councillor Jessamine, all in favor? Carried.
Motion that we what?
Could I have a motion to adjourn, please? Councillor Jessamine, all in favor? Carried. Good evening, everybody, and thanks for attending our council meeting.